welcome to Homekeepers. Welcome to a very special week on Homekeepers, actually. I hope you saw the program yesterday when we began the week with one guest, and you can only imagine how special that guest has to be with us for 1 week. And her name is Brigitte Gabrielle, and she is an author, and she has the most incredible story. We told her basic life story yesterday. I sure hope that you watch that, because for this week she is uncovering, putting the spotlight on radical Islam and their effort to overtake the United States. And friends, there's a lot going on that the average person does not know about. I believe that God prepared this young lady from birth, and she now has a platform, and I'm so happy to give her this platform to inform you, my very precious viewers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here with us today. I want to offer you again this booklet, Understanding Islam and Christianity Made Easy. This is just really an educational tool where it lays the Bible right alongside the Quran. Quite informative, but the important part is that at the end of the book is this fold-out to give you some good ideas and hints on how to witness for the Lord Jesus Christ to Muslims that you meet. And so that is available to you for just writing to me at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. The answering service does not have this information, and so if you'll just write to me, and please enclose any gift that you possibly can to help us stay on the air and to keep these informative programs coming your way. If you absolutely cannot send anything, I'd like you to have it anyway. I love you so much. But our scripture this week, I want to give it to you again. 1 Chronicles 12:32. The sons of Issachar understood the times with knowledge of what Israel should do. Brigitte Gabrielle is giving you an understanding of the times and what Americans could do. So here's my second interview with Brigitte. Okay, you know, Brigitte, yesterday we kind of stopped where kind of got you partway growing up, and had a little time to really tell people about you, where you came from. I think that gives so much understanding then to know, you know, what's happening now and what happened in between. You became a journalist did you move to Israel?
I moved to Israel in 1984 and became news anchor for World News in the Middle East, working in Jerusalem. And out of the Nations building, actually, that's where they hold the Feast of Tabernacles every year for our viewers who attend the Feast of Tabernacles. Yeah. That's where I worked, on the top floor of that building from 1984 till 1989. And as I started reporting on world events, and you know, this is in the 80s when we started seeing a real rise of Islamic terrorism around the world.
Did you have any training for this?
No, I went down as, you talk about how God works in mysterious ways. I was brought down as a production assistant, and then the news anchor quit within 6 months, and the bureau chief called me into the office. He said, tomorrow you are on the air. And that's how I began my career, and I started reading the news by tilting my head to the right, reading a few sentences, tilting my head to the left, and I didn't know what to do after that, and you know. So I came a long way.
I wish we had some
I came a long way. Oh my gosh. Since that day. Yeah. But as I began reading the news night after night, I started realizing that there was a pattern developing. And I did world news. Because no matter where the terrorist activity took place, the name of the perpetrators were always Muslims. Ahmed, Muhammad, Hussein, Ali. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians and Jews. Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, the Achille Lauro, the TWA flights, the Pan Am flights. And I started realizing that what I used to think was a regional problem between a majority Muslim Middle East trying to kill or expel the minority Christians and Jews had become a worldwide problem. But the world was not paying attention.
They weren't on the same page with you then.
No, the world did not connect the dots. The world lacked imagination. And isn't this exactly what the 9/11 Commission report said to us? We lacked imagination. It's not that we did not know that Al-Qaeda wants to attack the United States. We knew Al-Qaeda wants to attack us. We ignored the problem. Al-Qaeda attacked us the first time, the World Trade Center, in 1993. Al-Qaeda attacked our Kubar Towers in 1995. They attacked our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1997. They attacked the USS Cole, and then they were so confident, we were so asleep and not paying attention and connecting the dots, that they came back and re-attacked the World Trade Center the second time in 2001, this time bringing the World Trade Center down.
Takes an evil, quote, imagination to use, a domestic airliner to go. I want to pick up one thing, because I can hear my viewers. Do you know that?
Okay, good.
They say, ask her, your precious parents, I was so moved the way you took care of them in death. By that you were grown and all, but you so honored and took care of them. Just tell that story to the viewers. Will you do that?
Wow. My mother passed away 2 weeks after I got married. And she literally died of a broken heart. She could not attend my wedding. I'm an only child. And my father was dying at the time, so she couldn't leave him. So neither of my parents attended my wedding. And that truly broke my mother's heart. And she ended up dying 2 weeks later of a heart attack. And here's this lady who was so perfectly healthy. I mean, walked every morning to the market, bought the fresh food, fresh everything, didn't take a prescription pill of any sort, in perfect health, and just died. And so I ended up moving I buried her in Lebanon, because in Lebanon you have to bury within 24 hours before the sun goes down. Our burial traditions are exactly the same way they used to be 2,000 years ago. We don't embalm, we bury before the sun goes down. We still practice all these traditions. I moved my father to Israel to live with me so I can take care of him. My father died in Israel. And I wanted to honor my parents, so I buried both my parents. I buried my father first in Mount Zion Cemetery. And then before I came to the States, I wanted to reunite my mom and my dad together. So I went back to Lebanon, took my mother out of her grave, put her in a baby casket that made to fit the trunk of my car, and drove her to Jerusalem and buried her with my father. It was actually Good Friday, 1989, and the church of the Via Dolorosa were ringing, the church of the Holy Sepulchre, the bells, and the marches of the Via Dolorosa with the cross were going on in Jerusalem as the grave was open, and I was burying my parents, just crying, feeling so alone. And they are buried with Oscar Schindler on Mount Zion. If anybody, if you have ever visited Oscar Schindler's grave, you literally have walked by their grave going down to their steps. And I have never even seen the grave yet, because I have not had the opportunity to go back to Israel. And I couldn't lay the stone, because you have to wait for 2 weeks until the ground settles. And so I have never been back to Israel since. And
girl, they ought to make a movie of your life. It's just...
well, hopefully, if any wealthy people are watching and they want to put money behind the movie, I would love to make a movie out of my life.
I come from such a biblical background, and I see you running to Israel for protection, and then I see you taking, like they took the bones of Joseph, but you were a good daughter.
That's exactly.
I bet you don't regret one moment of that.
Oh, not at all. And it was so difficult. I remember when we were crossing the borders, and they have to check for bombs, and they had to check the casket. And I remember standing there sobbing uncontrollably, just sobbing, and that my mother had to go through that, as I transfer her to Israel. But it was so important for me to bury them in Israel, because my parents always taught me actions speak louder than words. Let people know how you feel with your actions, not with your words. Words are empty. And so I wanted to make sure, not only to honor my parents, but to send a very strong message to my children yet unborn, that my loyalty lies with Israel, and wanted to ensure that my children will always be drawn to Israel and not to Lebanon for generations to come. And that was my way of doing that. And my parents are the guiding light. I do everything in life to honor them, everything. I wake up every morning. I mean, they've been gone now for over, almost 25 years. I wake up every morning and I pray to God, what can I do to honor my parents today? And I hope that people will learn what type of amazing people that raised me seeing what I do with my life.
Yeah, it's one of the commandments.
What I do with my life.
Honor.
Yeah.
Say, if you just joined us, I'm talking with Brigitte Gabrielle, and so far we're talking about this book. She's got another book we'll be talking about, Because They Hate, and I want to put her website up right now. We'll leave it up for the rest of the program. Please, there'll be plenty of time for you to write it down. And I'm very, very thankful that I've had this opportunity to introduce her. And I hope you saw the program yesterday of her childhood and wonderful Christian parents. And I want to pick it up now, Brigitte, where you're broadcasting, and you are at least one person, probably very few, you figured out, hey, there's a pattern here. We've got these planes blowing up, there's bombs here, bombs there, and they're going after a certain type of people. And so you began to connect the dots.
I began to connect the dots. And I mean, we realized, as somebody like me growing up in the Middle East, as a Christian, I've always heard the phrase, growing up as a child, أولاً يأتي السبت وبعده الأحد. First comes Saturday, then comes Sunday. Meaning first we kill the Jews, then we come for the Christians. If you are a Christian raised anywhere in the Middle East, it doesn't matter whether you're raised in Egypt, in Syria, in Israel, you know, the Palestinians, in Lebanon, in Jordan, it doesn't matter. They want to kill the Jews, then come to the Christians. And it's not just the radicals. You know, in America, we talk about the radical Islam and moderate Islam. In the Middle East, there is no such thing as radical Islam and moderate Islam. Islam is Islam. And I write in my book, under the banner of Islam, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. There is no God greater than Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, which is the word you see on the Saudi flag, on every flag. It says, under the banner of Islam, Muslims murdered children in Israel, massacred Christians in Lebanon, killed Copts in Egypt, Assyrians in Syria, Hindus in India, Armenians in Turkey, and expelled over 900,000 Jews out of Arab land. All that happened before they ever turned their eyes to the United States. And so this is why, for me, when I watch the news and I hear people in America say, especially all the pundits coming and after 9/11 speaking about, oh, they hate us because of our foreign policy. Oh, they hate us because we support Israel. They hate us because we are in the Middle East. That's utter nonsense. Because if that's the reason why they hate us, then why did they hate the Christians in Lebanon? We're Arabs. My mother tongue is Arabic. I held an Arabic passport. We were not supporting Israel. Why are they now massacring and killing the Copts in Egypt? The Egyptian Copts are Arabs. They're Egyptians. Israel is their enemy. They're not supporting Israel. So when you have societies, countries, in masses, including their governments, calling for the killing or the expulsion of Christians and Jews from their countries, that's not just a few fringe radicals. That's societies operating at a time because it's the way they think.
So you, at a very young age, you rather quickly changed your opinion of Israel, right?
Oh, because since I was 10 years old, I mean, Israel, I was very young. I mean, 10 years old.
You were smart enough to see nice people.
Yeah, thank God. I'm so blessed. Exactly. So we knew that Israel was our friend. I mean, you know, we as Christians, we knew the Israelis were always our friends.
I think it's just amazing that, you know, God saw you in the bomb shelter and helps you to learn English.
That's right.
Because you did marry an American, so that gave you just, you know, just entrance right into. Now, I read somewhere, I'm not sure it was in your book, that when you saw the planes hit the tower, you said, they're here? Is that true?
Exactly. They're here now.
And so you were one of the very, very few who knew, and I'm sure there were certain people in Washington who figured out very quickly who it was, but maybe you were the first one to know.
We knew immediately. I was actually driving around.
Where were you when you saw
driving
that
around. I had just dropped my kids at school. And I was driving back home, and in my way, I was looking around in a new neighborhood. We were building a new mailbox, and I was trying to pick up which design I like. And I got a call on my cell phone from my husband. He said, we were just attacked. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I bet you it's an Islamist attack against the United States. He said, they just attacked the World Trade Center. And that's before the news called it. I mean, that was like 8:45 in the morning or something like that. You know, we were on the phone, he and I.
Before that time, had you spoken out?
No, because I
radical
came from the
Islam?
Middle East. I left the Middle East after marrying my American sweetheart and came to the United States, and I thought I left all the crazies behind. They're there now. I'm in America. I'm going to start a new life. This is going to be wonderful. It's all behind me now. And I did. I mean, my husband and I owned a TV production company, and we were working and, you know, living the good life. We had 2 children. When September 11th happened, it made me realize that the radicals I thought I left behind had followed me to the United States. There was no escape. The world had become a smaller place. And I was so debilitated. I mean, that day I did like what all of us did, like our viewers did. We all sat in front of our TV screens, feeling so brokenhearted, devastated, angry, frustrated, helpless, sad. What we couldn't fathom, how can someone hate us so much that they would use airplanes as human missiles and fly them into skyscrapers? I mean, talk about barbarism.
Yeah.
And we could not believe that somebody could hate us that much. That day changed my life. That day, my daughters came home from school that afternoon because they didn't tell the kids what happened. You know, they kept them in school. And my younger daughter was watching television with me, watching the repeated images of the World Trade Center falling down again and again. And she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, why did they do this to us?" And I found myself looking into my daughter's eyes, Artheline, and telling her,
Yeah.
they hate us because we are Christians. They consider us infidels and they want to kill us. Here we were, 2 generations apart, 8,000 miles apart, 2 different continents. I was a young Lebanese girl who spoke the Arabic language. She's a young American girl who spoke the English language. I had to repeat to her exactly what my daddy told me. They hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. That day was my defining moment. That's when I vowed I will do everything in my power to make sure that my daughter will never ever look into her child's eyes and repeat to him or to her what my daddy told me and what I had told her. That's the day I became an activist. That's the day I decided, what can I do to make a difference for my country?
Well, you know, your books are just loaded with, I don't know if it's this one. This one has more than 30 pages of just footnotes, very well researched. And so you went through from, I don't know what year to which, but of all of the bombings and all of the terror and all that really kind of led up to 9/11. And I'm sure you were totally shocked, but with the whole background you had, were you real surprised that America got hit?
No, no.
Really?
I mean, the signs were on the wall. I mean, we saw the signs, how they were attacking us, you know, attacking the World Trade Center, attacking the Kubar Towers, attacking our embassies, attacking the USS Cole. I mean, after they attacked the USS Cole, I mean, these were major, major attacks against America. And I'm not talking about Hezbollah bombing, you know, a restaurant in Argentina going after Israel. I'm not talking about any other international bombing. I'm talking only against bombing against the United States soldiers on our bases, and we did not connect the dots.
Yeah, what do you think of America's response during those? Because I made a note that you have a list of terror attacks from 1985 to 2001.
In my first book, Because They Hate, I list pages upon pages of all the attacks against the United States, and where America hit the snooze button and just went back to sleep. And that sent a very strong message to our enemies.
Which was?
It told our enemies we are weak, we are no longer the power we used to be. They re-strengthened, they armed themselves, and they attacked us, the World Trade Center again in 2001.
And that list of terror attacks, I think from 1985 to 2001, is listed in here. I was so impressed when I went through it, because you know, you do hear things on the news and it's just like you get a shot of Novocaine in your brain and oh, there's another one, you know.
Yeah, and you forget them and you don't keep track. I'll give you a perfect example. In Iraq, everybody's familiar with the beheading of Daniel Pearl and Nick Berg. I mean, oh my gosh, when Daniel Pearl was beheaded, it was on the news for 7 days non-stop. We were stunned as a nation that someone could do that, behead somebody, videotape it. And then later on came Nick Berg. When Nick Berg was beheaded, he was on the news for 3 days. Do you know that in Iraq we have had 35 beheadings? Can you name me anybody else? No. Nobody can remember anybody else. We only remember Nick Berg and Daniel Pearl, because we become desensitized.
Yeah.
And then it's just a mention on television in the evening news. We don't even remember the names of the people who were beheaded. And what happened in this terrorist war against the United States. And I hate to even call it a war on terror. I mean, that's an oxymoron of a statement. You know, we have a war that has been declared on us by radical Islamists against our values, against our democracy, against the United States, against our freedom. And this war has been declared on America since 1979, regardless what administration we had in the White House. You see, the national security issue is an American issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. It's not a libertarian issue. It's an American issue. America has been attacked under different administrations, whether Republican or Democrat, since 1979. We were attacked under the Carter administration, a Democrat, with the hostages in Iran. We were attacked again in 1983 under the Ronald Reagan administration, a Republican, with the blowing up of the Marines in Lebanon. We were attacked again under George Bush Sr. administration. We were attacked again under the Clinton administration, a Democrat. It was actually under President Clinton that the World Trade Center was attacked the first time in 1993. It was also under President Clinton that the Taliban trained 10,000 Al-Qaeda members in Afghanistan. These people were not being trained for entertainment. They were being trained to attack the United States of America.
We're going to run out of time again, but thank God you're going to be with me 3 more days. So,
good.
But let me again mention this book, because on the next programs we're going to talk about her newer book, But Because They Hate. This has so much background and so much research, and the website has been up. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go to Barnes & Noble. To get these books, so make a note of the name. This is Because They Hate, and in the next programs we're going to get a whole lot more current and how this Islamic terror type of message is infiltrating this United States, yes, even to your small school children. And I like your phrase there, the snooze button, because I hope that we really wake a lot of people up. So you stay with me. Have a couple things to say before we have to say goodbye.
Artheline would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
All right, I do hope that you have noticed the website, and of course it will be on again tomorrow, because that website leads you to places and areas where you can make a difference. You know that I've had David Caton on this program several times, and he has a website and also a mailing list giving you information about what's going on in Florida. And because of his ministry, there have been several things thwarted in Florida that could have been very, very harmful to the state, to the educational system, to our court system. And so this is really the way that it works, that people with these kinds of outreaches give you a vehicle to do something about what's going on. Now, I again want to offer you this comparison book, Understanding Islam and Christianity, and you'll probably notice in the beginning how the Quran takes a few scriptures, you know, from our Bible, and it just lays it side by side to give you an understanding, and it's an easy read. And the important thing is that it has this fold out at the end. We're giving you some really specific ways to witness to a Muslim, because the Lord's not willing that any should perish. And sometimes you need a guide. You just need something that shows you how to deal with a certain type of person. The Bible says, good understanding giveth favor. So this will give you some understanding. And as I said, the Lord's not willing that any at all should perish. And also, on the next programs, you're going to learn more detail. I was shocked to learn, because I live in Tampa Bay, I was shocked when Brigitte told me that one of the greatest Islamic strongholds is actually in Tampa. And so she just shines the light on it. And the wonderful thing is she also has a mechanism where you can do something about it. The Bible tells us also, Jesus speaking, that men's hearts will fail them for fear. This series is not in any way wanting to scare you, you know, but to inform you. And so in the last days, hearts will be failing for fear, but but Isaiah 41 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That is his promise. And when I think of the generations that follow, because remember Brigitte mentioned how just 2 generations changed things so very much, how it's changed things in Europe. And when I think that I have 8 great-grandchildren, I need to do something. I need to do everything that I can, that we can give them an America that's not going down the tubes, that's not going to be radicalized by a false religion, because don't kid yourself, this is a religious war. It's sometimes called a holy war. And what Brigitte is talking about is factual, and also she has lived it. I hope you saw the program yesterday, and don't forget she'll be on 3 more days. And I'm so thankful that the Lord sent her my way so that I could give her to you and all the information. And remember also, friends, the power of prayer. Praying for our nation, because if God is for us, who can be against us? I liked her term, the snooze button. It's time to just turn that off, friends. And that's the reason that I'm bringing her to you for 1 entire week, that you understand what's going on and that you can do something. You can inform your children. We're going to give you ways and means to really be part of this representative government that we have called the United States of America. It's all coming up the next 3 days, but I'm out of time right now, so please join me next time, remembering there's absolutely no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you would like a video copy of today's Homekeepers program for just $19.95, call 1-800-229-0059 for credit card orders, or send a gift of at least $19.95 to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Be sure to note the program number which appears on your screen.
Are you looking for a common sense approach to better health?
I'm Dr. Richard Becker, and this is my wife, Cindy.
Watch Your Health weekdays here on CTN Christian Television Network.
Your Health features daily health news, holistic health experts, insight into dietary supplements, and on-air answers to your health calls.
And join me in the kitchen as we make healthy foods to restore your health and vitality.
That's weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on CTN.
When I was 16, I was in a bad car accident, and the doctors told me I would never stand again. Somehow, I knew I would. Progress has been slow, but family, friends, and strangers all started to pray for me.
Whether you need support in a tragedy or just to make it through a bad day, prayer can make a difference. America, let's come together by believing with each other.
For someone to come alongside you and say, "I'm going to believe with you," it means a lot.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Hickey, and I'm so excited about being on CTN again. And our program today with Marilyn and Sarah, listen to this, will be on every weekday morning at 7 a.m., and that's Eastern Standard Time. So, you know, the early bird gets the word. Get up, get the word, let the word absolutely transform your day. That's what the word can do. It can change any circumstances. See you.
God's love, elevating, energizing, empowering.